Somebody says you need to turn your volume up, by the way.
Who did?
Somebody. I don't recognize the number.
Okay. All right.
Just you.
Just me.
Just you.
Okay.
It's all about you.
It is always about me. Hey, it's your go-to place for entertaining car talk. The In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Just ahead, Karolina Serratos walks us through making your car worthy of a trip to Aunt Mary's for the holidays.
Woohoo!
Jeff has a feature on Family Cruisers, the 5 best American station wagons. Is that in your mind?
In my mind,
Wagon
yeah. There's
Master's
actually
here.
about 30, but I'd pick 5.
Really? Okay, well, at any rate, so Jeff's going to have that. We're also going to have auto Christmas gift ideas. And we're going to have the stories making automotive news headlines this week. Another bash against Carvana coming up.
Oh, boy.
It's all straight ahead. Howdy, along with Mike out of this world, Mars. We need more Jeff Dziekan. I'm Don Armstrong. Conrad's out today. And joining us right this very instant, here she is, ladies and gentlemen. I know that you've been waiting for her. Karolina Serratos, professional
They're
auto
on their
care. Look
feet.
at that $1 million smile. Did you ever wear braces?
I did.
Did you?
Good morning.
Good
Yes,
morning.
I did.
Good morning to you. Well, I know that your parents are proud because they spent thousands of dollars on
Millions.
that beautiful smile. Millions, yeah. So when we go into a professional auto care, that's what we're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you?
Nothing short of lovely. How are you guys today?
Well, we're not quite lovely, but we are nice.
It's been a long
We're here.
time.
Yeah,
We
it
haven't
has
talked
been.
to her in a long time.
I know. How are things over at Professional Auto Care?
Everything's going really well. Very blessed.
Are you open today?
We are not open today. No.
Okay. You just came to the shop to do this interview?
Yes, and I have other things to do. Things that
Can't get
you
done
can't
during
do
the week?
during the week.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, well, now that we've had that discussion, it's good to talk to you. See you later. No, I'm just teasing.
No.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Well, yeah, exactly. Matter of fact, I brought the Corvette in to see Karolina not too long ago. It was time for an inspection sticker and the once yearly oil change because I really don't put enough miles on it, but it timed out. I think once a year is probably a good thing, no matter how many miles you put on it, because it just sits there and we don't want it to get gunked up. Am I right?
Correct. I do the same thing. I have a Mini Cooper, an older one, and I do the same thing. At least once a year, I got to make sure I change that oil.
Yeah, because you don't put enough miles on that either, do you?
Oh, I don't. No. It's just a little fun stick shift car.
Yeah. Well,
Very cool.
I have one of those too.
Yeah. Well, yours has a clock on it like a tractor for timing out.
That's right.
rather than
And,
mileage.
and the clock on the
Yeah.
tractor is
Oh,
right
boy.
up here.
Yeah.
So I thought we would talk to you today about travel readiness tips for winter road trips. Now, most of us that don't really leave town, some of this may not apply because we're talking about going into weather. And be honest with you, Dallas is kind of like the turning point for weather as far as freezing temperatures and that sort of stuff. As a matter of fact, my Katie and her Ford Focus, I bought her a Optima battery, oh my gosh, 4 or 5 years ago. It finally bit the dust this week.
Oh, no.
And it probably wouldn't have bitten the dust, but she hadn't driven the car for 7 days, okay? Usually she walks to work,
Yeah, I was
but the
gonna
weather
say.
was so cold. It was 21 degrees this particular morning, and she said, she lives in Denver. And so she said, okay, well, I'm going to just take the car to work. Well, got out there and tick, 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 it wouldn't start. And I thought, okay, well, I'm sure it's the battery. And plus, it had been sitting there for a week without the alternator running. And so I said, let's go get you a new battery. Because, as a dad, and I know that you can relate to this because you've got one too.
And she's a dad.
Yeah.
No.
And so I will tell you that as a dad, you don't want your daughter to be stuck in some shopping mall parking lot when that sun goes down with the tick, 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 and having to deal with that. And, it's just not a safe thing to happen. And if you're lucky enough for it to fail in a parking lot, as opposed to failing on the side of the road somewhere. And so I think that, batteries are a big deal, as we like to say. Is there a way to...
100%.
Yeah.
And that really kind of ties into one of my things is just make sure you have a plan if something were to go wrong. My plan would typically involve calling my dad first and saying, Dad, I'm hearing this noise or I'm smelling something or what should I do? I understand not everybody has that, but even having your auto repair shop on your phone in case you do experience something, finding your AAA card and not forgetting it at home. So that way, if you need to get roadside assistance, you have what you need. So you can show your card so you can get that roadside assistance, figuring out what kind of roadside assistance you have, keeping extra bottles of water in your car, having a blanket if you're going somewhere cold. Just having a plan is going to make the whole situation so much better. So that's probably my first advice to people. Not that you want to have a problem on the road, but you got to have some sort of plan in the event that something does go wrong.
Well,
familiarizing. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, and to embellish on that, let's not forget being stuck in a major freeway shutdown in cold weather. Do you have enough gas in the tank to keep the engine running, to keep the heat going?
Yes, that's a great point.
And the fact that, so many people are driving electric cars these days.
I was thinking
you got enough juice in the battery to keep the heat going. And
so don't wait till the last minute to fill up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And if you're going to head on out, make sure that you've got a full charge or a full tank of gas. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway,
absolutely.
Continue on.
Yeah. And the next thing I would say is just familiarize yourself with your car. Just taking time to look at the owner's manual. If you're geeks like my sister and I, we couldn't agree what to play on the radio one time driving to Disney World, so we just decided to read out of her owner's manual. So just familiarizing yourself with your car.
It's a good idea.
Learn how to check your oil. On some of these new cars, you can't unless you have a scan tool, but just knowing what you can and cannot do, know where your coolant reservoir is at, what kind of coolant you would need, because you don't want to be on the side of the road trying to get self-service and Googling, what do I do now? Just familiarizing yourself, open your hood, look under your hood, get an idea of where these caps are. So when you're under that stressful situation, you're not taking it out on people you're with, your loved ones, who everyone just wants the same goal, to get wherever you're going. So I would say familiarize yourself with your vehicle. Even scheduling an appointment to go to the auto repair shop you typically go to, and just ask the mechanic, hey, can you just show me what are some things that I should be keeping an eye on, or how do I check my tire pressure? Some people don't know how to do that. I would highly encourage everyone to just keep a tire pressure reader in your car. It can be a little cheap one, but in case that light starts to act up, you feel the confidence that you can pull over to a gas station without looking around frantically, showing off to people that you don't know what you're doing and you're nervous. By knowing already and having that confidence, pulling over, checking your tire, you should just get in and go back on the road. Mm-hmm. I think that's really important too.
And first aid kit is important as well.
There you go.
You put, because you might,
a $20 first aid kit from Target or Walmart or any of those.
You go
places.
to Academy, get some bear repellent, snake bite kit, all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and back to your thing about the gauges and checking, for instance, like oil. I have a friend of mine that has a 2017 Jaguar F-Pace. Well, guess what? It does not have a dipstick, I found out. No dipstick. And you have to go through a whole series of junk to check the oil level with punching buttons and a series of events that you have to input into the computer for it to come up to find out how much oil is in it.
Wow.
Who dreamed that up?
Jaguar.
Uh-huh. Tata. Is it Tata?
Yeah.
I think it's Tata Motors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
in that case, have your AAA card handy.
Yeah, I'll say. What a frightening thing. You can't check the oil without going through the computer. And I'm sorry.
You're relying on the computer to tell you that the oil is okay.
Or low.
Exactly.
I don't know that I like that.
I don't either.
I mean, what if the computer's wrong?
Yeah. Or, you can't really tell unless the light goes ping. And, the engine oil level is low.
Or non-existent.
Yeah, no, that's one of those things that you really need to take care of.
And back to kind of your point right there, Don, if you're driving and you notice that your coolant light comes on and then maybe just goes off, well, you still may want to pull over and check your coolant level, because a lot of these vehicles, the coolant temperature sensor needs to be submerged in order to get an accurate reading. So if you're out of coolant, your light may turn off because there's no coolant it can be reading.
So it cools. It gets to whatever the air temperature is inside wherever it is, the radiator or the manifold or wherever it is.
Mm-hmm. And then it gets too hot, and then you got your check engine light. The car is shaking. It's like the light turned off. Why is this happening? So I think it's just very important to familiarize yourself, get yourself more confidence. So you happen to see a light, know what lights mean. You don't want to be Googling and describing what the light is while you're on the side of the road to have to make that type of decision.
Yeah, and hope that you got an internet connection while you're there on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Let's talk about tires and brakes real quick.
Mm-hmm. Tires, I would 100% say, look how old they are. Especially if you haven't been doing a lot of driving. I did a pretty big road trip this past summer, and I knew that road trip was coming up, and I knew my tires were getting old. So I went ahead and I spaced out my tire purchases because I like the Michelin tires. So I bought 2 tires, and I waited a couple of months. And I bought the last 2 tires just because I wasn't feeling confident on the age of them. You don't want to be making a long cross-country road trip, or I would say not even a trip to Dallas if your tires are 5 to 6 years old. Go to a tire professional, go to a tire store and say, hey, look, can you teach me how to read how old my tires are? Can you look at the tread depth and tell me if this is okay for the wet, or do I have the right tires for going where I want to go?
Yeah, exactly. Because there are all-season tires. Mm-hmm. There are also winter tires.
Right.
And there's definitely a difference between the two.
Yep.
Yeah, Jeff knows. He's the old tire guy. Mm-hmm. Now, how about brakes? I mean, brakes you just kind of forget about as long as they're working, but you certainly don't want to be behind the wheel when they're not working.
Right, correct. Right, and you don't want to go on your trip and then you're in a different city and you start hearing
grinding and
crazy noises.
Yep. Right.
So to that effect, I would just say find a shop that you trust and go get a full checkout. Just have them look over the whole vehicle before you're going to go on a trip. And if you're going on a trip for Christmas, I would say start planning that already, just in case there's any issues with parts, or if they need to change, let's say hoses. You need to change your radiator hoses. You have 160,000 miles on it and you've never changed them. And you know what, we're going on a really long trip. Let's change these hoses out. Well, you don't want to change hoses right before you're about to leave. You want to change the hoses and then set up a time after you've driven a couple hundred miles, go back to the shop. If they need to tighten any clamps, look over everything. You don't want to be doing major repairs the day or 2 days before your trip.
Right.
So I would recommend to everybody, find a shop that you can trust. Ask the shop if you can go into the bay and look. I mean, Don, you know how we do. We send the little reports with pictures and everything.
Correct.
And if you're here, we always take people inside the shop so they can see for themselves.
Right.
Find that sort of relationship so they can be explaining to you what they're doing and why, or what they're recommending and why. So if you find yourself in a situation, the more knowledge you have, the better you're going to be able to make decisions. Just understanding vaguely how something works is sometimes enough to make sure your family make it to your destination or find a safe place to stop.
Have you had any issues in acquiring parts? And if so, what kind of parts are you sometimes run across that you can't get right away?
You know, it was really strange when everything first started. Probably about a year ago, there was a problem with cabin filters for some reason.
Cabin filters?
Get those. Yeah. Now that's fine. That hasn't really been a problem. Sometimes it can be difficult getting evaporative emission system parts. So, canisters, leak detection pumps, stuff like that. Catalytic converters obviously have been an issue, especially for the Toyota vehicles. That typically is a pretty long lead time, just kind of depends what model it is. So it's kind of up and down. I did have to get a alternator coming from Colorado not that long ago. My supplier was getting it out from their Colorado warehouse because the distribution center in Texas didn't have it. So there's just funny things. I don't think that suppliers are still stocking what they used to stock. So it's better to check your car and keep it well maintained, so that way you're not in a position, well, now we can't go somewhere, we can't do something because we have this repair that was totally able to be caught in time before it reached this point.
No parts. Yeah.
You can't wait till the last minute.
Yeah.
Right.
One of the things that I'm a big stickler on, that it really doesn't hurt every once in a while to get out there and wash your own car, because you can find out a lot of things by getting out there and washing your own car. Oh, well, there's a dent that I didn't know that we had before, or there's something leaking under the car. I didn't realize that it was leaking. It's silly things like that most people don't really think about unless there's some great big huge puddle of oil in the, or whatever the case may be.
Then it's too late.
Then it's too late.
Yeah.
Then you got to call the wrecker, and it becomes a major problem. Have you had any cars come in on the hook? Have you had any problems with a certain make or model of car that you have seen recently?
Jaguar?
I've seen a lot of issues with neglect. So people falling behind on their maintenance and it causing problems. I don't think that you can just blame one particular brand or model. It's really being proactive or not being proactive. Either you're going to do your maintenance, it's just like your body. You want to take care of your body. You want to exercise. You want to eat right. You don't have to go crazy, but just little habits you build here and there are going to make a big difference. Just incorporating little small things, like you said, washing your own car, driving without the radio super loud to see if you hear any noises, or just turning on your car and sitting in it for a little bit. Just to familiarize yourself with things. I've seen more issues than anything from, it started making that noise like 3 weeks ago. And it seemed it wasn't getting any worse. And then today it's just really, really bad. And then they have to come in and tow truck.
And you have to talk to your car. You have to talk to it, and you have to name it.
I talk to my car quite often.
Do you? But and you're still talking to yourself as well.
Well, yeah, nobody else will listen.
That's right.
This is true.
One of the things that comes to mind is, if I'm going to buy a car, and I'm not new, but a used car, can I bring it to you and have you guys look it over?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you charge a fee for that?
I do charge a fee, yes.
How much does it depend on the kind of car, or what? How do you base your fee?
It does depend on the type of car that it is. And we have like a few different options for checkouts. It just depends if it's a vehicle that has a lot of different modules and we should really scan the whole computer system. Or if we're just looking for safety, repair, and maintenance look over, that's our Service Smart. You're in that program, your daughter's in that program, and that Service Smart runs $150. And just looking over the whole vehicle, organizing it in safety, repair, and maintenance. That way the client can make their own decision. Do I want to buy this car? Or once I buy this car, what is in store for me?
Well, I would imagine that if I've made the decision that I'm just one tick away from plunking down, $15,000 for a used car, and the only thing holding me up is for somebody to look it over, I'm certainly willing to pay $150 or whatever it is to have it, open the hood, put it up on a rack, look underneath it, make sure that everything is there that's supposed to be there. It's not leaking and doing the things that it's supposed to do.
And especially right now in this used car market, we have been seeing more used cars that people are bringing to us that need so much work. And the prices for some of these cars is just, I don't understand how they feel okay just posting that price. And the car is just junk.
Right. There are obviously, just like any other business, some unscrupulous dealers out there that will play on somebody's emotions. Hey, I really do like that Mustang. It just speaks to me. It's the right color. It's got the right interior in it, the right engine. It just looks good. And then they bring it to you and you open the hood and you go, oh my gosh, it's a nightmare under the hood.
There's been like 3 that come to the top of my head where you open the hood and you're like, how is this thing cooling? Like the condenser is touching the radiator. When you open the hood, you didn't notice this thing was like a V?
Yeah.
And that's why I say, just open the hood. Just be familiar. Just familiarize yourself with your vehicle.
Right. Well, and if you get down to the point where you're getting ready to plunk down the $15,000 for a used car, $150 to have somebody, a professional, look at it and say, yeah, this is a good one, or no, don't buy this. It would save yourself a lot of heartache.
Peace of mind, and then the shop becomes someone you can trust. Then you're going to go back to that shop during your maintenance, your oil changes, your brake jobs, and things like that.
Right.
So you're going to build that trust, and it's a peace of mind.
You going to Disney World?
Hopefully.
When? Is that coming up in
It's not official yet, but maybe for Christmas.
Okay, good, because I know that you guys.
Maybe we're just going to camp. I don't know if we're ever going to go to the parks, but we miss it so much. We just love camping at the campground.
I love that.
Cool.
That's a cool idea.
What owner's manual are you going to read on the way out?
Yeah, exactly.
I will probably fly. Oh. My parents will drive. They'll have my dad. My mom isn't going to read anything.
How do you fly and camp?
Well, you fly into Orlando. My parents will be camping. They come get me.
Your parents are camping.
And then I'll stay for a little bit. Then they'll drop me off the airport, send me home, and have a few more days.
You're glamping.
Themselves.
The glamping, yeah.
It is going to be glamping. It is at Fort Wilderness, so yes.
Karolina, it's great to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming into work this morning and getting us on the Zoom call. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Yep, you do the same.
too.
That's Karolina Serratos with Professional Auto Care. Thanks for joining us today on the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can always shoot us an email. The address is info@inwheeltime.com. We have a very special...